Hello, fellow YouTubers, and welcome back to Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, Justice for All. On the last episode, we finished off the investigation by heading up and talking with the acrobat, Acro, who is currently in a wheelchair, probably for the rest of his life, due to an incident that happened 6 months ago. He seems pretty nice, except that he seems to be holding a grudge against Regina for some reason. We headed back downstairs and started talking with Mo, like we shared the information that we got from the note, and Psyche Locks popped up all of a sudden, which was weird, until we questioned him and found out that, yeah, the incident that happened 6 months ago resulted in a serious injury to the other acrobat, Bat, Acro's younger brother, who is currently in a coma at the hospital, and that was the same time that Leon the Lion, who we previously heard died, got killed for. And in the incident, Acro lost the use of his legs. We headed back over to Acro because we also found out from Regina that the note that she found, like the threatening note, was actually given to her, and she noticed it at breakfast time while giving Acro breakfast. So we headed up there and found out that he might be the person that gave her the note, which is really ominous due to the fact that someone died because of that note. But before we managed to talk to him a little bit further, Von Karma showed up and brought him in for questioning, so our investigation ended. But I think we have a good idea of what to expect from this trial. So let us head over to the trial and see how things are going to turn out on the second day. Good morning, Max. Oh, yeah. Good morning, sweeties. Oh, I held on the button. You don't seem like your usual sparkling self today. I'm always like this before I go in front of an audience. I'm working up to it. Tee-hee. I think I know who this is. I've been wrong before. Yeah, that's exactly what I thought it was. Good. Don't get nervous, Maxie. Here, have a glass of milk. Regina! How fabulous! My sweetie pie! My sweetie pie princess! You came to watch my performance today? Of course I did! That's not Regina's voice, it's Maya's voice. Mo told me that I should come and watch this. Mo said that? So, what kind of performance will you put on today? Let me guess. You'll fly at the end? It's not that kind of show. Isn't that right, my sweeties? Huh? I think my sweetie pie princess doesn't... Yeah. She doesn't seem to realize what's going on, or even where she is. Just like Pearl. Except I feel like Pearl had... Well, no, Pearl literally walked hours to get to the courthouse. I think Regina knows what a car might be. Unless we find out that there's an elephant currently outside. Which wouldn't be too out of the question, I think. Well, Max, it looks like it's time to raise the curtain. I'll see you later. Today I'm just a member of the audience. Fabulous. Enjoy yourself out there. Good luck, Max. You're the best. Regina's different. Don't you think, Nick? Oh, boy. Oh, not today, Mo. Top of the morning to ya! Everybody, let's get ready to get stuck in legal limbo! How low can you go? Mo. Top of the morning to ya, Governor! Top of the morning. I don't remember what Mo's voice is, but I frankly don't care. That's the ticket! Attacking the day starts with energy in the morning! The early bird gets the worm, but then again, worms lack higher brain function. Here, Max, I brought you a present. Have some milk. Oh my! Thanks. Max is getting a lot of milk. So how are you today, Wright? Well, I got the feeling that today I'm going to face off against the real culprit. You mean Acro? Huh? You think he did it? Be careful. He's used to putting his life on the line. Literally. He's got guts to spare. If all I got to worry about is how thin the typewriter is, I'm used to it already. Yeah, Phoenix walks it every day in court. It just means that I won't be able to press him like I can other witnesses. What are you gonna do then, Nick? I guess today we'll just do without our usual psychological warfare. Today we rely on evidence. It's the only way we'll get past Acro into the truth. You're right, but it's gonna be tough. Anyways, I want you to make sure that Regina sees it all today. It's important. And she'll finally have to deal with the reality of what happened to her father. You want us to make sure Regina watches? Aren't you gonna be in the audience, Mo? Yes! That's why I brought her here to court today. What's that supposed to mean? She needs to know that when people die, they don't just become stars. I may be an old-fashioned clown, but I don't believe in people becoming stars. He brought her to get truth-bombed. Ooh, that's not good. Court is now in session for the trial of Maximilian Galactica. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. The defense is ready, Your Honor. Very well. Miss Von Karma, you may proceed with your case. The prosecution would like to revise its previous theory of events. What's the meaning of this? We have discovered a new witness, or shall I say, a new eyewitness. What's the difference? One that saw Maximilian Galactica fly off from the scene of the crime. Order! Order! I had a feeling something like this would come up. Due to this revision, we are now prepared to explain how the defendant flew that night. An explanation the prosecution will present if the need so arises. In fact, my detective stayed up all night creating a mock-up of the scene on my orders. Poor Gumshoe. Very well. Please call your witness to the stand. Time to get to work, or shall I say, time to walk the court tightrope. Name and occupation. Ken Dingling, but everyone calls me Acro. I'm employed as an acrobat at the Berry Big Circus. Where were you on the night of the crime? There's no on. I was in my room that night. If you look at the map, you will see the witness's room is near the crime scene. My room is on the 3rd floor. The crime scene is below my window. The night of the crime, the witness saw something quite shocking. Could you tell us what you witnessed? Okay. Alright, Acro. Everything's pointing towards you. Even Mo assumes it's you at this point. So, what I witnessed. It was just after 10 p.m., and I was resting in my bed. Around that time, I heard a large thump noise from outside the window. Then, a few moments later, I saw someone flying right by my window. It was Max Galactica. I only saw him from behind. That's who it looked like. To be honest, when I saw that, I thought I was dreaming. This witness's testimony matches up exactly with that of the clown. If that's the case, there is very little the prosecution need add. All that's left is to explain how the defendant disappeared into the sky that night. Before we get that far, I'd like to cross-examine the witness. A foolish choice by a foolish fool who wishes to feel the foolish sadness of a sad fool. A man must know the proper timing for things, Mr. Phoenix Wright. Just like your old friend, Mr. Miles Edgeworth did. Mr. Wright, do you have a problem with the witness's testimony? In the words of Ms. Von Karma, may I quote yesterday's proceedings? There's no way that actually happened. Very well. You may proceed with your cross-examination. Now, I mean, before we entered the court, Phoenix mentioned that we can't really press acro. I'm not sure if that's true. I don't remember if it's true. In fact, we actually need to press something. All right, statement 1, statement 2. Saw someone flying right by my window. It was Max Galactica. I only saw him from behind, but that's who it looked like. How would you know? The light in your room was turned off then, right? That's true. I was going to bed after all. So with the lights off, you were still able to clearly see a human fly by your window. And the safety lights lit things enough up for me to see. Wow. But honestly, there was only enough light for me to see the silhouette outside my window. It was the person's back, so I couldn't see the white roses on the front. Did you see any of the other symbols? I clearly saw the silk hat, as well as the cloak wrapped around his body. I'm convinced that the person I saw was Max Galactica. The more I press him, the less results I seem to get. So I think this is a statement that Phoenix will say for anything. But maybe there was something fishy with his latest bit of testimony. There's nothing wrong, or there's a contradiction. And there is a contradiction. There is a huge contradiction with the testimony that was just given. Objection! If there is a contradiction, then prove it with evidence. She's right. Let's see some evidence. Do you have any evidence to support your claim of a contradiction? Well, if he saw the hat, why do we have it? Take that! And why was it on the floor? You claim to have seen the exact same thing Mo saw that night. Do you stand by that? What do you mean? The silk hat. What about the silk hat? I saw it on Max's head as he flew by my window. Well, you should have tried looking down out of your window that night. That would have been quite difficult considering the state that I'm in. Just looking outside of the window was a tough enough challenge for me. That's a shame, because you would have noticed the silk hat found on the scene. That's the ringmaster's hat, right? Good try. Afraid not. No matter how you look at it, this is Max's silk hat. Where are you going with this, Mr. Wright? Are you saying that Max has 2 silk hats? No. This is a handmade, one-of-a-kind model, made only for Maximilian Galactica. Which means, Acro, that you've been fibbing on the stand. Nice use of fibbing. Order! Order! As always, it looks like someone just had to open their mouth before thinking. Are you okay, Nick? What'd I do? Well, I opened my big mouth, and now I have to back it up. How about it, Mr. Wright? What would cause this witness to commit perjury in this court today? He has a grudge against Max. Acro was dreaming. Acro is the real culprit. We're gonna need evidence, no matter what we pick, So, we don't really have, he doesn't have a grudge against Max. He has a grudge against, he has a grudge against Regina. Was he dreaming? That's not testimony. How can we prove he was asleep? He was the real culprit. Your Honor. On this occasion, the defense accuses Acro himself. On this occasion... accuses Acro? What in the world are you accusing him of? Obviously, we accuse him of the murder of Mr. Russell Berry. Mr. Wright, are you serious? Deadly serious, Your Honor. I think your trips to the circus have served you well. You seem to have learned how to try and grab at an audience's hearts and minds. Your Honor, don't allow yourself to be swayed by theatrics. Trying to wow the crowd with smoke and mirrors is the oldest bluff in the book. Really? If you don't believe me, just look at the witness. He's calm enough for it to almost be scary. He is staying rather calm and collected. I love this sprite. I mean, it's just his normal I'm sweating sprite, but they had to add the bird pecking at his forehead, which just makes it even better. I was just about to think, it's like, did Phoenix get any new sprites in this game? And the answer is yes, but it's actually not this. I completely forgot about this until now. Hooray! Mr. Dingling, do you have any response to the defense's accusation? I don't really need to say a thing, do I? What do you mean? Everyone, take a good look at me. I can't even stand up by myself, let alone leave the lodging house. That's true. I understand that Mr. Wright is just trying to help his client. But to do this by accusing me of a murder of all things. See? Even a sliver of common sense makes it clear the accusation is ludicrous. She's right! Way to pick on the disabled, you heartless, cruel man! Oh boy. Phoenix! Phoenix is a poopy head! You let that kid in! But that's Regina. See that, Mr. Phoenix Wright? Oh, I keep on hitting the button on accident. If you're trying to drum up support from the peanut gallery, that's how you do it. I think that's enough of this little game. I've got a doctor's note to confirm that Acro is unable to stand under his own power. Maybe the defense is planning on making a claim to counter this as well. I can hear the defense now. Acro had an accomplice. What do you say about this, Mr. Wright? Did Acro have an accomplice? Of course he did. Of course he didn't. Once again, we're gonna have to prove this with evidence. And, nothing we have points that he had a friend help him. Or a person help him. So we're just gonna have to go with this. And then hope that something we have can explain it. Now then, this must be when we get to hear the name of the mystery accomplice. I like how, once again, the game's playing with you by not removing your health bar. There we go. Not this time, Von Karma. Phoenix is confident. What? You're not going to sucker me into this one. What are you blabbering about, Mr. Wright? There was no accomplice. Acro planned and committed this murder all by himself. Order! Order! What are you getting at? Way to keep them on their toes, Nick! Now I'm going to have to prove how it all fits together. I have to show how Acro murdered Russell Berry. And why. Can you do it, Nick? Can you really do that? I know what I can't do. I can't stop now. If I stop attacking, I'm doomed. So we gotta keep this momentum up.
right! Then let's do it!
Mr. Phoenix Wright, if this witness is the killer, then his eyewitness account is all lies, right?
Mr. Wright, I'd like you to clear something up for me. When the crime was committed, exactly where was Mr. Dingling?
This one's a very easy answer. If Acro can't leave the building by himself, and he had no accomplice, that means he has to be by himself in his room. So that's where we present. He was obviously here the entire time.
That's Acro's room.
Pretty simple, eh? Acro wasn't able to leave the lodging house by himself. In that case, there can be only one correct answer. Acro didn't leave his room to kill the ringmaster. What? Are you nuts?
What say you, Mr. Dingling?
It's an interesting theory. That's it? Considering that what you propose is impossible, yes, that's it.
Mr. Wright,
Yes, Your Honor.
as the witness has stated, your assertion is impossible.
Assertion is impossible?
As he's in a wheelchair, there is no way he could go to the scene or be the killer.
You've got a point. It seems you've forgotten once again, Mr. Phoenix Wright. The defendant was clearly spotted at the scene of the crime.
That's true. Mo said that he saw Max, didn't he?
But Maya, it's still impossible for humans to fly. It's the year 2017! No one can fly yet! Do you mind if I ask a question, Mr. Wright? What is it? I understand some of your logic. However, how do you think that I killed him? If I can't leave my room, I obviously couldn't wear Max's costume. How did he do it? That's the next course of this legal buffet.
Be careful, Nick. If you mess up here...
She's right, I can't mess up here. I've got to give this one some serious thought. I'm sure that Acro killed the ringmaster. And he did it while he was in his room. No doubt about it.
Time to enlighten us as to how Mr. Dingling committed the crime, Mr. Wright.
Present evidence? Can't present evidence now. We actually can? In a way. I'm going to present some evidence.
So, what did Mr. Dingling use to commit the crime of murder against Russell Berry?
And I said because we can kind of present it, but we really can't because we currently don't actually have it with us. But we do have a nice picture of it.
What's that? A picture?
It is indeed. The problem is with the item that's shown in the picture.
The bust?
It's quite a large bust, and because it is life-size, it is also very, very heavy. Heavy? Heavy enough to guarantee a certain death. Especially if it was dropped from a third-story window. Ah! Oh, the birds disappeared. To be fair with Acro, he actually hasn't shown any sign of, like, a flinch. See? This is how Acro was able to kill the Ringmaster. With the force of gravity and Maximilian Galactica's ample bust. Thank you, Phoenix, for making me say that out loud.
Order! Order! So, you're saying the bust fell onto the ringmaster?
A rather simple crime. Even if he were stuck in a wheelchair, it would be incredibly easy to commit. How could you possibly wheel a wheelchair with something so heavy? It's impossible. Well, Acro is an acrobat. He should have more than enough upper body strength to carry something like the bust.
Mr. Dingling, how do you respond to these charges?
There go the birds again. Well, Acro's at a loss for words. He should be. He knows that I'm getting close to the truth. Well, Acro. You can't— Ow! I'd watch what I'd say if I were you, Mr. Phoenix Wright. I'm so glad that she can interrupt me like that, and it works perfectly. What? Your Honor, the physical health of the witness is material to this case. I demand that we get proper testimony from the witness himself.
Testimony, you say?
Oh, Karma. She's just using this testimony as a ruse to stall for time. There's absolutely no need for such testimony. The defense has its version of the murder. The prosecution has the right to respond.
The defense's objection is overruled.
Why can't he see things my way once in a while? Phoenix, how many times do you stall for time?
Mr. Dingling, I'm sorry, but we need you to testify about your physical condition. If you have any doubts about your ability to testify, we can request expert testimony.
The witness will have no problems. However, let's all be respectful towards him. Thank you. Ugh, that woman will sink to any low to win a case. Acro's physical state. I suppose I could have lifted something the size of that bust. I have a strong upper body from working as an acrobat, and only my legs were injured. However, lifting the bust and looking out of the window would have been impossible. There's no way I could have exerted that kind of force on my lower body. That makes it impossible for me to have known the location of the ringmaster's head. Thus, it would be unrealistic for me to drop the bust on him, don't you think?
I have no doubts in regards to this witness's testimony.
It was impossible for him to lift the bust and stick himself out far enough to look. Not to mention that he could not have known the location of the ringmaster's head. A single false step would have led to even more severe injuries.
That's what I was thinking. What is your opinion on the matter, Mr. Wright?
I'd still like to proceed with my cross-examination. He's simply stalling. It's shameful, really. Look who's talking! Ugh, I can't let her get to me. I've got to focus. Besides, we got something that we can immediately present to Acro. Ooh, we even got the moderate version of the testimony theme. 2, 3. I mean, there is one way you could have made it so that everything would have lined up properly and you would have known where his head is by, this. Acro. You didn't really need to lean out of the window, did you? What are you driving at, Mr. Wright? You already knew ahead of time where the ringmaster's head was going to be. Quite precisely, I may add. Your silly hinting at things is pointless, Mr. Phoenix Wright. Enough stalling! How about you show us some evidence? But I did such a good job hinting.
Yes, yes, yes! Hurry up and explain things, Mr. Wright.
Maybe you should take a look at this photograph. The key point here is the wooden box.
The same wooden box that the victim was found hunched over.
The same. The question is, who placed the wooden box here? Who? When Ben and company saw the ringmaster, they didn't see him holding the box. Which means that this wooden box was already placed at the scene of the crime.
I have to admit that your theory makes a lot of sense.
The moment that the bust came falling down was exactly the same moment that the ringmaster lifted up this wooden box. Which means that the answer to all these questions is now crystal clear. You mean...
If the bust were to fall upon the point marked out by the wooden box,
there would be no way that it could miss the head of the victim. No!
Order! 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 This is unbelievable.
Finally, some of these loose ends are starting to tie themselves up. Now we know what the box is for. We don't know what the contents of the box are for yet, although that's going to be coming up soon. Now I just gotta keep going, and there's only one way to go from here. Forward.
So the next question I have is, who placed that wooden box at the scene?
It was Mr. Dingling, of course. He connected it to a rope, and then all he had to do was lower it down. Ow! Allow me to whip some sense into you, Mr. Phoenix Wright. Ow! 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 The ringmaster's head could have been anywhere when he lifted the box. That's why the box was so specially made. Specially made? Indeed. It had the most peculiar feature. The size of the box, the weight of the box, the contents of the box. Technically we choose the weight. I mean, the contents don't matter for this case at the moment. The size also, why? But the weight, it's really heavy. The box is a remarkable weight. Weight?
According to the court record, it weighs 20 pounds.
Just to lift up this wooden box would have required.
Oh, I see. One would have to squat down, then lift up with their body, wouldn't you say?
That's exactly what I was trying to point out. The box is also very large.
The box also has carrying handles on either side, doesn't it?
That is correct. To lift up the box, you'd have to squat down. Which means that no matter who you are, your head would be in approximately the same place. Fool. Does he even bother to listen to me anymore? He's still stone-faced. I've heard what you've had to say. I must admit, I'm shocked at your imaginative skills.
Did you do it? Did you place this wooden box in the plaza?
Mr. Wright may have a vivid imagination, but I could never have done what he's proposing. What? Mr. Wright, do you recall the original location of Max's bust? I remember, I forget. Technically, you could answer either. But, I mean, we know where it was. It was in the cafeteria. Of course I remember. It was on top of the table in the cafeteria.
Then what happened to it?
I'd like you to remember one important fact, Mr. Wright. I could not possibly leave the lodging house by myself.
Ah! That means...
You understand what I mean, don't you? I may very well have been able to drop the bus from my room. However, how would I have gotten the bus from the cafeteria to my room? You see, Mr. Phoenix Wright, explain that. Don't forget, you said there was no accomplice.
Ah!
Tell us exactly how the witness would have carried the bust from the cafeteria. Yep, we definitely have a problem here. But this is no place to get perplexed. I've got to get my wits about me and prove how things happened once and for all.
All right, Mr. Wright, let's hear your explanation. How did the witness get the bus from the cafeteria back to his room?
I mean, we said he had no accomplice, but that's also a half-truth because he totally had someone accidentally help him. Such as the monkey.
A monkey?
Everyone knows money. He loves shiny objects of any size.
Oh, like when he stole the ventriloquist's ring.
So, are you saying the witness had a monkey steal the bust? Of course he didn't order the monkey to steal it. The monkey stole it on his own, and then brought it back home. That might be the first reaction we got from Acro.
Home?
Money lives in Acro's room.
Acro's room?
But the bust was bronze, wasn't it? Bronze isn't all that shiny. Maybe you should put the whip down sometimes and read the court record. Oh, burn! Look how shiny those cards are. My. Oh, that's a judge.
My, those are some very nice cards he's holding.
Yes, and they are made of platinum, which is very shiny. When did we learn that? I don't remember learning that. Gwa! Acro! Money is a strong monkey, right? It'd be easy for him to bring the bust back to your room. If he wasn't able to handle that himself, I'd be on the market for a new roommate. He agreed with us.
Order! Order! I said order! Miss Von Karma! Where is the bus in question at this moment?
I don't know. We're searching for it as we speak.
This is a rather strange turn of events. But let's say that the monkey had not stolen the bust. What would have happened then?
Well, in that event, something else would have been used as the murder weapon. Wait! And you mean this bus was a murder weapon? Purely by accident? It's possible. Maybe Acro saw Money's mountain of stolen goods and thought to use one of them. Didn't he have like a tuba? Anyways, I think we've more than proven one critical fact. Namely, that it was entirely possible that Acro was the murderer. Moron!
Mr. Wright's argument was so circular, I'm still a bit dizzy. However, his argument does hold water. There's no denying that. Ow!
Don't seem so flamboozled. I love that word, especially by this fraud of an attorney. Fraud? Oh, well, Phoenix is hurt. You've forgotten the absolute most important thing, Mr. Phoenix Wright. And what is that? You should know. You forgot that your fraud of a magical client was spotted at the scene of the crime. Ah! There is no reason to doubt the clown's testimony. Really, Von Karma? I have several doubts.
But that's true. How do you respond to that, Mr. Wright?
Nick, don't let her beat you now. I won't. This is my chance to turn this trial around. AKA, turnabout. When the murder occurred, there were two people at the scene of the crime. One was the victim, Russell Berry, and the other was the murderer himself. Answer this and only this, Mr. Phoenix Wright. Who was the murderer the clown saw? And this is where things are getting it fun when we present what the actual murderer was. He saw Max's... Ow! I asked who was the other person Mo saw in the scene. That evidence has nothing to do with the question. Au contraire, mon frere. I did not say that correct. We're moving past it. It does indeed have something to do with the question. Mon frere. Mo said that he saw Max's silhouette. But he did not actually see the man himself. It wasn't a human being he saw. Well, Pursuit's playing.
How is that possible?
It's simple, really. let's find out how simple that is. What Mo actually saw that night was Max's bust. What are you talking about? Have you tried using your brain at all in this case? The silhouette he saw was wearing a cloak. There's no reason why you couldn't attach a cloak to the bust. It would be easy to hang one off of the cards in the bust's hands. Idiot! Who in their right mind would put a cloak on a bust? It doesn't matter who put it on the bust.
Just wait a minute now, Mr. Wright.
Oh, the music stopped for a brief moment.
Who put the cloak on the bust? That question is of the utmost importance to this case. Don't you agree?
Doe caught me.
So let's have it, Mr. Wright. Who put the cloak on the bust?
You're never gonna believe this, Judge, but there was only one person wearing a cloak at the time. The victim himself.
Fool! Him? You are saying it was the victim himself? Russell Berry?
That's what I'm saying. I can't wait to get whipped. Hold on, Phoenix. I mean, the victim himself placed the cloak on the bust. Place the cloak isn't really the right way of putting it.
Then what would be the right way of putting it, Mr. Wright?
Explain yourself!
Nick, do you really have a handle on all of this?
I'm fine, Maya. I'm finally putting all the pieces together. Yeah, if you don't know what's about to happen, just wait. This is great. There's really only one picture I can paint anyways. Alright. So, you want to know what really happened that night? Let's step back in time. Acro used a rope to lower the wooden box into the scene. Then he attached that rope to the bust and dangled the bust out of his bedroom window, directly above the wooden box. At the same time, the ringmaster told Max to wait in his room and went to the scene. Of course, at the time, the ringmaster was wearing Max's costume. Perhaps he didn't want anyone to recognize him that night. But just as he feared, he was spotted at the entrance of the lodging house by none other than a ventriloquist and his puppet, Ben and Trillo. When the ringmaster arrived at the scene, he bent over to lift the wooden box. And that's when Acro took his chance and released the rope. Now this is where the magic happens. At the very instant that the bust hit the victim, you wait just a second there, Mr. Phoenix Wright. As much as you try, as much as you scheme, this just isn't true. It can't be. It's still a little early to be getting so upset, Miss Von Karma. The circus isn't over yet. What? The impact of the bust on the victim threw the cloak up, which snagged onto the bust. That impact also caused the sound a certain witness heard, prompting him to take a look. That witness was, of course, Lawrence Moe Curls, the clown. When Moe looked out his window, the cloak had already snagged onto the bust. Now, having completed the crime, Acro naturally went about pulling up the murder weapon. Of course, he had no idea that Moe saw the bust being raised with the cloak dangling on it. Primarily because in his wheelchair he couldn't see out of his window. So he just kept pulling the bust up. And that is how the magical murderer disappearing into the sky came to be. So you see, the only person who could have pulled this off is the one person who was able to drop the murder weapon from above the crime scene. Acro! It could only have been you.
Acro's been playing mind games with all of us.
He sure has. He is still calm after everything that's happened. But he has come to the end of his rope now. So? What now? You've graced us with a rather long-winded tale. But do you have any evidence to prove that your fairy tale is true?
Evidence?
Just like, what evidence? In this court, only two things matter: the power of evidence and the power of my whip.
Don't forget the power of my gavel as well. Mr. Wright, the prosecution brings up a good point. Can we see some evidence?
Nick, they say they want evidence.
I just explained how there can only be one possible murder method. But there's still something unusual about Moe's eyewitness account.
Unusual?
A contradiction, actually.
Okay then, use that and get out of this jam.
That's enough talking amongst yourselves. Proceed, Mr. Wright. Present some evidence to the court that backs your claims. I want hard proof that you have unraveled the trick to this magic case.
Now, the thing we need to present is... It can't be this, can it? Can it? It's supposedly this. What did Moe see that threw everything off? Did Moe see the flowers? Or did he not see the flowers? Because it's apparently this we need to present. The three symbols. The problem is Max's three symbols. You know, the silk hat, the cloak, and the white roses.
Those symbols were a problem numerous times during yesterday's proceedings.
Yesterday, there were two contradictions in Moe's testimony. The silk hat was one, the white roses were the other. But the theory I just presented explains all of these contradictions. You fool! Do you ever shut up? Max's silk hat was found at the scene of the crime. However, remember what Moe said yesterday. He testified that the criminal he saw fleeing the scene was wearing a silk hat. There's only one explanation for that. The silk hat that Moe saw was actually the bust's.
Makes sense. If you look at it that way, then he did see the silk hat. Well, sort of.
Fine, you've got one, But what about the other contradiction?
The other contradiction.
Remember what that ventriloquist said in court. He said that he witnessed white roses on Max's chest that night. But the clown's testimony doesn't match. The clown said that there were no white roses. I'd like to see you try and explain that one away.
Can you do it, Nick?
Of course. I can explain all of it. What was that? Please recall the instant when the cloak snagged onto the bust. If the cloak snagged onto the bust, what happened to the white roses? Oh yeah, we saw that. They got folded inwards. Do you get it yet? If the cloak got snagged onto the front of the bust, it means that the white roses would end up on the back of the bust. Ah! Which explains why Mo didn't see them. The white roses were not visible because they were on the back side of the bust.
Order! Order! This is quite the shocking state of affairs. Mr. Wright's theory still sounds a bit absurd to me. However, let's just keep going down this road for a while and see where it leads.
Let's do this, Nick. Then maybe Von Karma will finally throw in the towel. Well, so much for that theory.
Mr. Wright, do you mind? What is it? You took the time to research our circus, didn't you? Well, yes, I did. Is there something making you think that I didn't? If you did, then maybe you'll understand why I think you're off track. Why is that? Motive. This witness feels an incredible debt of gratitude towards the ringmaster. Anyone with any relation to the circus is well aware of this. Of course, let's come back to this. Thus, there's absolutely no way someone like this would kill the ringmaster. Your Honor, I'd like you to hear Acro's story. Learn about his relationship with the ringmaster and his life up until now.
What do we do? There's no doubting that Acro deeply respected the ringmaster.
Acro's motive.
It seems that this case isn't over yet. Very well. However, I feel this is a good place to take a break.
Thank you, Judge. I was thinking the exact same thing.
I will listen to the rest of Mr. Dingling's testimony after recess. This court will now take a 10-minute recess.
Whew. So we have the picture painted. We have the murder scene figured out, hopefully. The only thing that's preventing us from naming Acro as 100% the killer is a motive. And we don't got one yet. Though. So that's gonna do it for this episode. On the next episode of Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney, Justice for All, we're gonna be wrapping up Turnabout Big Top, case 2-3, and finding a motive, or finding the reason why Russell Berry was killed in the end. So, until next time, hopefully you enjoy.